the anticipation built this week, and we liked it that way because playoff football or regular season finales are starting up. We talk fantasy football podcast here on Gozilla Media. Kyle Ray, Chet Davis, Goz with you. Before we get into the fantasy talk we know you're waiting for, we're going to tell you about our friends over at Mohawk Honda. December is here, and changes may be on the way for you. On the way for me. I'm stopping over to Mohawk Honda later this month. I was talking about Cam McKenna. And the Pilot 2022s are available. Your old favorite Gozzy Bear might be in a new ride, sure enough. I didn't think I was going to be able to have that happen. You start looking at your finances in December, you wonder exactly where they're going to stand if you've got money saved up. I was blown away by the deals happening with the Pilot program right now at Mohawk Honda, and you might have that same feeling too. Connect with them today. Stop over to Glenville, New York, Freeman's Bridge Road, and find out about the deals that you can take advantage of this month, just like I did. Got myself into a new ride. My pile of Vex in a new ride, too. The Mohawk family is having these great deals happen in December. Whether it's Cam McKenna, our pal Greg Johnson, Lindsey Harridan, Hot Sauce Doyle, MJ John and Service. So many people I've got to meet at Mohawk Honda. Now you can do the same for yourself. Connect with them on social media. Stop in Glenville. Find out about the new things that can fit your lifestyle, your budget, and more. And that's new vehicles in Mohawk Honda in Glenville, New York, where they always go out of their way to please you. I don't know if they would have taken a Pilot, a tank, some type of wild vehicle to get old Ray down to Orchard Park to watch that wild game. Kyle, we know you are a Bills fan. We got to start with that to open this one up. I don't even want a banner for this one. We might not use a lot of banners this day because we had a lot of fun graphics coming up. But explain to us what the hell happened both from an NFL and a fantasy perspective in that Bills-Patriots game this past Monday.
I think the first thing I texted you guys when I looked at the weather was, do you guys want to pull together a G and bet the under? And my God, would we have won. Yeah. That weather was that one of the most interesting weather games we've seen between – it wasn't like it was the elements in terms of rain or snow. It was just plain old wind. And you looked at the opening kicks from Tyler Bass, and you see punts that are going here and then there, and just absolutely wild. And I mean, when you look at the Bills, you cannot take anything away from what Josh Allen did. I thought Josh Allen played great. For looking at what was going on in that game from the weather, he made some incredible throws, including the one that Stephon Diggs that took the wind took it at the end where it hit him on the bicep. I mean, Josh Allen played great. I don't care what you say. I think he had his receivers had 4 or 5 drops. Dawson Knox had 3 of them. Josh Allen probably could have finished the game with 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. But drops and some of the elements happened. The bigger concern was the first, and I'll say this much: I was real mad the first, 13 hours after the loss. Run defense got bullied. Everybody in the entire country in Ethiopia knew what the Pats were going to do. Run the ball. Pats fans, hate to tell you, I don't think you have a franchise quarterback in Mac Jones right now. Belichick has 0 trust in him. So there's my jab at you, Pats fans. Fuck off. But
that was the big old F-bomb. I love it.
So when you look at what happened that first 18 minutes, I think they had 241 total yards. In the first 18 minutes and 39 seconds of the 241, they had 191 yards, including 11 of the points. Ran down the Bills' throat. Just, I think everybody at that, all Bills fans were like, oh no. And if it wasn't for a N'Keal Harry, what the hell are you doing play? Bills are down 11-0 going into halftime, and it's ugly, and everybody's worried. So then you take a look at the second half and what happened. 5 drives for the Pats, 50 total yards, 49 came on 1 drive. And that was the game. Don't get me wrong. That was the game-winning drive. When it mattered the most, it was a game-winning drive. I mean, for God's sakes, Mac Jones got, 4 yards on a quarterback keeper to make it 4th and 1? That was bad. But I don't think the Bills' defense played as awful going into the second half, but the bigger concern was the coaching for me. What Leslie Frazier did the last 2 drives was what needed to happen in the first goddamn quarter. When you see the pulling guard, you send Matt Milano in the middle because Matt Milano apparently is the only one that can make a tackle. But overall, I think when you look at the elements, I'm really concerned with the Bills. I'm still concerned with the Bills because I think our offensive coordinator, Brian Daboll, is playing himself out of a head coaching job. Leslie Frazier shows some stubbornness with not wanting to change some of the defense. And Sean McDermott cannot win a challenge to save his life. That was a terrible challenge. If Sean McDermott doesn't challenge that, the Bills have 2 timeouts. That Matt Milano injury doesn't stop the clock. We get the ball with 30 seconds left. So there's a fraction of a chance. But I'm still worried about the Bills. From a fantasy side, I have no concerns with Josh Allen. I'm really hoping that Brian Daboll opens his eyes and said, we can't run the ball. I'm done with the run. I'm going to cut Devin Singletary, Matt Breida, and Zach Moss, have no running backs on my roster, and just go and let Josh Allen throw it 60 times a game. But I think when you look at what's coming up for the Bills, heavy passing. I love Stephon Diggs down the stretch. They're going to have to throw the ball with Josh Allen. So Josh Allen's going to be a 25-plus performer every week. And I really want people to keep an eye on Gabe Davis. He was the one bright spot in that offense next to Stephon Diggs making some really nice plays. I texted this to Chet earlier in the week. Gabe Davis' share continues to go up. I think he was on the field for 30% of the snaps on the Patriots game. And he just continued to show good hands, good route running, and he's quick. Emmanuel Sanders, the only routes he's running is straight up the field. So Gabe Davis, keep an eye out. I love Stephon Diggs going down the stretch. Cole Beasley's going to have to be a big part of it. And then obviously Dawson Knox. Josh Allen continues to look for Dawson Knox. So concerns with the Bills, yes. But from a fantasy side, be wary of what Josh Allen's about to do from the passing game. If you got any of those Bills passing attacks, I think you're going to see some points coming up.
Chet, I want you to respond to that, but I think we need to do a reminder here too.
What part would you like me to respond to, Goz?
Yeah.
The part, let's go all the way back to the beginning, because didn't you get a message I thought you shared with us that one of our favorite listeners, never, ever even factored in weather before listening to this podcast in fantasy?
I'm telling you guys, you can't avoid, like, you shouldn't go into fantasy and be like, oh, this guy plays north of, what was it, the Mason-Dixon line? Isn't that the divides the north and south? Like, you shouldn't go into it being like so many great fantasy players play in Green Bay or play in Buffalo. But it is something to consider that when you get down into the crunch time of the fantasy football season, the teams that play in the north without a dome could deal with harsh elements. And especially when you have a Monday night game, which was the perfect storm, pun intended, you run out of times to audible. And it's really hard, especially at this time of year, if you do have a lot of investment in the Buffalo Bills, a la Kyle, you can't make drastic changes, dropping a bunch of players, adding 1 week waiver quarterbacks. You're kind of stuck with what you have. But it is something to always look at of what is this team going to look like. If the Bills run into more games where it's windy or storming, they're going to be in trouble. Stephon Diggs will be in trouble. Josh Allen, hopefully they realize he is the best running back on the team, and they should have run him more in that game, and I think that gives him a higher floor than a lot of quarterbacks. But even from a kicking side, how many kickers do you want to trust in December that might be kicking in snowstorms or in the mud? I like kickers who have turf fields or play in a dome or play in the South. And obviously you want a kicker who's on a good offense. And there's plenty of those to go around. So that's something you might not look at kickers as like, I got to make a really tough decision. It could be the difference between winning a playoff matchup and not.
And just because our audio side didn't see it, Kyle, you flashed the number 1 when Chet mentioned kickers. What kicker did you say was going to be 1?
Tyler Bass. Tyler Bass is the only kicker from the Elements side right now that I trust. I mean,
I disagree. Justin Tucker and Harrison Butker.
So what did Justin Tucker do last year in the playoffs against the Bills in terrible weather? Missed 3 field goals.
The greatest kicker of all time. You're picking on one game. Tyler Bass just had a -1 2 weeks ago.
Yup, and Tyler Bass.
So it's like it happens. Guys have a bad game, but Justin Tucker is the most consistent NFL kicker in history. And he's always kicked in the North.
I'll take Adam Vinatieri would be my answer.
What about
one other thing to add here about talking about like fantasy projections and weather and all the things both of you guys have said. This is a very 2021 complaint. Older fantasy players are just going to roll their eyes at me, but can we get better with projections on weather games? Especially on Yahoo. I'm not sure if ESPN does this as much, but it seems as if Yahoo's projections mid-game are always extremely high.
Mm-hmm.
So as the game continues to go down, it will slowly go down. I want immediate, like, hey, it's snowing. What do you think you're going to get? Well, how about a 4? How about a 5? That way, if you beat the 4 or the 5, you're like, yeah, I'm the underdog. I overcame. I don't need to chase after these imaginary numbers. Maybe Yahoo does that intentionally, keep you on the page longer. And if you are, you got me.
The thing that also annoys me, I mean, projections are so bad for a lot of reasons, but I think all the formats, maybe it's just ESPN, when your defense starts the game, it gets the immediate 10 points. And your projection assumes that they've already scored 10. It's like, no, they're at 0. Like, don't give me the false sense of hope. Like, you'll start, let's say you go into 1 p.m. kickoff and none of your players have started and you're projected at 100. Your defense starts, it's like, you're projected for 115. It's like, no one's done anything. It's because they haven't started yet. Like, let's be realistic. Just leave them at their projection and we're fine. You know, like that always bugs me because it can sway your matchup so quickly. Like, what happened? I was still taking a piss before kickoff. How am I down projection by 15 now? So, yeah, that always bugs me.
We got the jump. Go ahead, Kyle. Yeah.
100% agree. I've also been one of those guys that thinks defenses should start at 0 and have to work up. I don't like the whole negative point thing. Like, oh, you allowed 100 yards. If a defense is only allowing 100 yards, that's still fantastic. But you're going to give me a negative point because they allowed 101 yards? Get the hell out of here. Sacks, interceptions, fumbles. I love Chet's 3 and outs. You should earn points, not lose points.
I think a half point for 3 and outs is a great idea because if a defense plays perfect, they only get 10 points. Whereas if you get a lucky pick 6, like the team could stink and get a pick 6 and then equal that same. No, 3 and outs change football games. It's just as good as a turnover, in my opinion. So, yeah, I'm with Kyle. I think there needs to be. You guys know how I feel about kickers and defenses. And apparently, I'm not the only one. Shout out Matthew Berry. But I think there was ways that could be improved. I don't know about how Kyle feels because I changed the rule with the power of being commissioner, making field goals only 3 points. I haven't preferred that in our dynasty league so much to my other leagues. I hate 5-point field goals. I've talked about it before. When I make all field goals 3 points, Kyle, as someone who plays in different leagues, which one do you prefer? No problem.
I like the mix of both, and the reason I like the mix of both, I like yours because in today's NFL game, a 45-yard field goal is routine for a lot of kickers.
Right.
It's a routine kick, but once you start getting past that 50-yard line, it's no longer routine, and the stats show it. The percentage goes down drastically. I think that extra points.
Can I suggest an improvement?
What's that?
You shouldn't get -1 if you miss from 50 and beyond.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
That'd be a cool way to do it. Because I'm with you. Like if the teams that attempt the 57-yarder, it's like, dude, he's supposed to miss this. Yeah. It's not the same as missing from 40.
Right. And I always think that anything past 50 should be an extra point. Anything past 40 should not deduct points. Anything 40 and under should deduct 1. That's just my thoughts on kicking.
Or just get rid of them. Make it a lot simpler.
Yeah, and that 3rd and out one is really good. I've never heard that before.
Really? I thought I said it on this podcast before.
Immediately I thought to like the 4th quarter, like let's say a team's up 21 points and the team's going for it. You won't get your half points, but who cares? Like you've already got enough during the game. Like that's just, just like a garbage team.
I think also it should be 1 point for turnover on downs. It has the word turnover in it.
Yeah.
If you force them to turn the ball over, I think that should be a point. It's just as good as a fumble.
The only other 2 things I'd add about defensive scoring is that if your defense pitches a shutout, you should get a bonus for that. And what I mean is that like you could have a pick 6, but you won't actually be a shutout because if they kick the extra point, it's a 1 instead of a 0, which I know has happened before in matchups. Yep. And the other one's a little more random. I believe safety should count as 4 rather than 2. Because a fumble recovery is 2. Like a fumble recovery can happen in a game. It's far more rare to get a safety in a game than it is a fumble recovery. So I would move safeties to 4 rather than 2 because if you get a safety, that's a far more bigger impact in the game than a fumble recovery.
Would sack safeties be 5?
Yes.
Interesting.
But so the only thing I'd say with a sack safety is they didn't fumble the ball.
Right.
Right.
So it should be 3.
No, because he's saying a safety by itself is 4. So if you tackle a running back for a safety,
okay.
and then so that adds on. It's like when you get the sack fumble. It's actually 3 points because it's a fumble and a sack. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, now that we're saying the word sack, it makes me think like we're going into Santa's
What
sack.
are you thinking about, guys?
Right? I'm thinking about the Johnstone Supply in Troy mailbag has now become like a holiday treat. And we're going to get to the mailbag. And Chet, you've got a very interesting question coming up this one. Chet submitted the question. I scratched all the other mailbag questions because I like this one so much, but we got some great things to get to that you may not know about right now here on Gozilla Media. One, if you're listening on Thursday or Friday, the Gozilla Media Christmas party is this Friday, thanks to Hooters and Heineken. Levac and Goz, my co-host, Levac on another podcast, and maybe you should go listen to as well. We're going to be there 5 to 7. Enjoying the time, having a great Christmas themed party. Bowl Mania is going on. Make sure to sign up for that on GozillaMedia.com. We're going to have a great show. We're going to play the game called Guess the Intern, the new drinking game everyone's going to love. Guess the Intern is going to be on Friday. Plus, thanks to Heineken, if you bring in an unwrapped Christmas gift, you get it wrapped by the staff right there. And if you bring in a children's toy, you have a chance to win $150 thanks to Heineken and Hooters. Simple and easy as that. Join us 5 to 7 is the show. Then after that, if you're a part of the Gozilla Media team, we'll be having drinks and food. And you want to hang out, have a great time. I have a feeling they're going to call us for last call at Hooters that night. It's going to be so much fun. We are encouraging Christmas outfits. So make sure to join us on Friday for that live event. Thanks to Hooters and Heineken. And also, Gozilla Media's merch store is now up. So if you want some Gozilla Media gear for this holiday season, a special code right now for We Talk Fantasy and the other Gozilla Media podcasts, if you use the code Gozilla Ship Free, Gozilla Ship Free, free shipping. You're not paying for shipping at all. 000 on your order up until New Year's Eve. That's when that offer ends. So there you go. Those two things. And now Johnstone Supply and Troy. Rick Tom's going to be there at the Hooters party coming up on Friday. Goodman furnaces are now in stock. Make sure your house is ready to go. Heated properly. Air filters are updated. The air is so pure. You just want to, and brag about breathing it in because it's so great at your home. It can happen thanks to Johnstone Supply and Troy. Get the updates. You hanging up the Christmas lights right now and your ladder shaking like this? Don't do that. Get a new ladder like my guy Levac did. Johnstone Supply in Troy. 518-272-5922. All right, Chet, let's hear it. This theory you got coming in our sack this week.
I don't know where to begin now. Too many sacks being talked about. Okay. I have hinted about this for, I think, the last 2 podcasts. The thing that is stressing me out the most is we come down to either your regular season finale or if we're in the Gozilla League, which I know Goz is getting a lot of flack for this. It is week 1 of the playoffs, even though 4 teams are on a bye. Is dealing with running backs in particular that are coming back from injury. And it's amazing how many are either dealing with it, just came back from injury, maybe just going on injured lists. Is it crazy? I guess this would be the question. Is it crazy to hope that your RB1 doesn't come back? And when I say that, it's with the thought that you have the handcuff. So it's almost, another way to say it is, at this point of the season, do you think the handcuffs outperform the RB1s? And here's the examples I'm going to give you. And I think this is my top 5. So I'll start with number 1, meaning I think this is the number 1 running back situation where I would prefer for the RB1 not to come back. You guys want to guess who it is?
Alexander Mattison.
That's correct.
Whoa!
Dalvin Cook.
I wouldn't have guessed this.
And the way I look at it, we don't know what Dalvin's going to look like when he comes back. Is he playing on 80%? Is he playing on 70%? Is it going to turn into sharing snaps where they only play Dalvin on first and second down, and then it's Madison on third and anything else? So my concern, if Cook's out of the picture, you have 100% confidence that Alexander Mattison is going to get 20-plus touches. And he's been very effective at it. But with Cook coming back, now you run the risk of, how do you bench Dalvin Cook? Like, you can't live with yourself. That's your top 5 pick, when healthy, one of the best running backs in the league. But you're putting your whole season into a guy who you don't know is fully healthy.
So I actually love that.
So you're in the boat of, if I have both of those guys
all the time,
Dalvin, sit out. let me just go in with Madison.
Take an extra week. If he has that Q or questionable next to his name, Dalvin, take the extra week. Take it. I think another running back combo that you look at something like this is Dallas Cowboys.
This is number 3.
That was going to be my guess.
Yeah. I have them at the third most, where I had the handcuff of Tony Pollard, who's becoming even more than a handcuff. But if you have, again, the situation is you have both of these guys. Again, it sounds crazy, but I wish they'd rest Zeke. Like, give him an O. Don't give me the questionable. Don't give me the game time decision, because there has been the rumor mill of they're thinking about resting Zeke fully. And I think he came out and said recently, you'd have to drag me off the field, which, you know what? Props for you for being, sticking it out. You got paid and you're still willing to put your body on the line. But from a strictly fantasy perspective, it's killing your team, because 50% of one guy and 50% of the other, it doesn't work out when it comes to the playoffs. You'd rather have 100%. I know this guy's getting the touches. I'm
all on board with that. Love it. I wish it too many times. And I think when you look at it, the same can be said about receivers. You see Devontae Adams coming back with a questionable tag because he hurt his hamstring the previous week. Do you want a Devontae Adams on a snap count, or do you just want him to say sit out so that I know that Lazard is going to be that guy that week? Because if you have to pick and choose, you're screwed. So no, I'm all on the train of sit him out. I would rather have them be out and have the RB2.
My number 2. And this guy's already come back, is Aaron Jones versus Aj Dillon. I have no idea what that's going to look like. I really don't. Aj Dillon has come in with Aaron Jones injured and been super effective. Like, I think we've all been impressed. He's been running people over. He's been an above average pass catcher, which I don't think a lot of us expected. But now when he comes back, you can't play Aj Dillon over Aaron Jones, can you?
No.
And then what's Aaron Jones going to get? Again, you're left with this. We're not the offensive coordinators. We don't know what the game plan is going to be. In my head, I like Aj Dillon at the goal line if I have a banged up Aaron Jones. Let me get the 250-pounder in there. And so I'll go through the list of other guys. It's amazing how long this list is. At this point of the season going into playoffs, I have 8 situations where I think the handcuffs could do better than the starters. So we have Cook and Madison, Jones and Dillon, Zeke and Pollard. How about what we just saw on Monday night? How much better would it be for Ramondre Stevenson if Damian Harris didn't play?
Ooh.
If Damian Harris, and now they're on a bye this week, so you don't have to make this decision now, and you hope that Damian Harris's hamstring's okay. But what do you do in a situation next week in your playoffs if Damian Harris has a questionable? How do you know he's not going to go out there? And we saw it in his run. He had a nice run in the second half, I believe, against the Bills.
Yeah.
Where he pulled up lame. He couldn't even get to top speed.
And still got 20 yards.
That happens in the first quarter. You're looking at a goose egg. Another one. Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams.
Baby.
Javonte looks amazing. But coach said, Vic Fangio came out and said, we're still going to use Melvin. This is still going to be a committee. So if Melvin Gordon's out of the picture, Javonte Williams might be an RB1 for your postseason. With Melvin, flex play at best, because you don't know who's going to get the goal line touches.
Mm-hmm.
It easily could be Melvin Gordon diving in from one. That's my top 5 in order. The bonus ones, how about Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Darrell Williams?
Oh,
how much better would your fantasy team be if one of those guys just stepped aside and you just knew, you're like, this guy I'm good with. But you don't at this point. I mean, Darrell Williams was the best receiver for the Chiefs on Sunday.
He was the best running back when he was the first stringer, too.
Exactly. Right. And CEH looked good. He looked fine. But if we're splitting time, it's not good.
No.
2 more. James Conner and Chase Edmonds. Edmonds coming off IR. James Conner, I mean, I've hated on the guy for a year and a half now. All he does is score touchdowns.
That's it.
He's in a perfect situation right now until Chase Edmonds comes back. What's that snap count going to look like? And the last one, Darrell Henderson and Sony Michel. I don't feel good about either of them. If they're both healthy, who do you play? I lean towards Henderson because I think he's the better talent. But what did Sony Michel do this past week with Henderson essentially being out of the game on the sideline? 20 points.
20-point burger.
20 points.
And
With
you
them
called
both playing, you're looking at 10 each. That's not going to get it done. So I just gave you 8 running back situations where 8 guys are dealing with some sort of injury, and the other 8, you're left to figure out who's going to be the guy.
I also think you can add one more combo into that. Gibson and J.D. McKissic. Because when Gibson was hobbled the most, McKissic got every other series, it seemed like. Obviously, Gibson's coming back a little bit. He doesn't even have a designation this week, which is surprising. And obviously, McKissic was hurt. But when they both were in, I mean, Gibson was getting 10, McKissic was getting 12, Gibson 12, McKissic 10.
So that situation, that's almost like what we're talking about, where that's what you want. And again, we're not rooting for injuries or guys to go down. But in the most important part of your season, you're 100% confident in Gibson right now. He doesn't have the competition of McKissick's. I think they've been using Curtis Samuel in the backfield a little bit, but you're like 3 weeks ago, you were like, man, can I even play Antonio Gibson right now with McKissic getting all these pass receptions and the shin injury to Gibson? Now you're like, I'm good. This is where he belongs. He's supposed to be my RB1. He's been living up to it the last 2 weeks. These other guys, I don't know how you have confidence in the most important part of your season in any of them.
Well, it almost feels as if like a hamster wheel, right, from back in August, where you could have Aaron Jones, Zeke Elliott, Clyde Edwards-Helaire as potentially your first-round pick. And your biggest investment as a fantasy football manager is always that first-round pick. It seems that's what the summer's all about. That's your mock drafts. That's your guy who might take you to the promised land and cash in for a championship. And then waiting to the playoffs and spinning around and not putting him in a lineup is wild. Like, it is so hard, like you said, Chet, that if you just put the O next to their name and say they're out, it makes that stress go away. But it also makes you feel and wonder if you made the wrong call way back in August, which now might make us wonder that the old zero running back theory we touched on a little bit is no longer a theory and it's a strategy. Like, that's it. The guy who ran the zero running back theory in the Gozilla Media League is a team named by Hooters. Guy again who runs the Hooters here locally. He went zero running back theory, and he's a top 4 seed. So that it's no longer a theory. It believes it's a strategy because what you just said there, Chet. If you have stacked wide receivers, tight ends, and quarterbacks, you piece it together when it matters come playoff time.
Yeah, because that's the part, everyone gets injured, and we've seen it. Doesn't mean it's just the top running backs, top wide receivers go down. It doesn't seem as frequent. But there's just so many more options. Like Kyle said, if a receiver goes down, Alan Lazard's probably on your waiver wire, or Gabe Davis, or how many people picked up Emmanuel Sanders midseason. Granted, he's had a rough month and a half. But there's just options. Even this late in the season, I'm picking up guys on waiver wires and considering playing them because they have that much of a potential. With running back, it's harder to find those guys late, but you can find them in the beginning of your season, or you get those. I'm almost having the strategy now as I'm like looking ahead to next season. Start drafting handcuffs that you don't even have. If I drafted 4 handcuffs, there's a good chance one of them is going to be the guy by the end of the year or have a run of significant play.
We're about to get into the preview for the Gozilla Media Fantasy Football Playoffs. Now, somebody hears that, they're like, oh, we don't want to hear about the Fantasy Football Playoff preview for a specific league. Hang on. How we're going to do this is that Kyle Ray is yet to see these rosters complete. So rather than us just talking smack between each other, which might still happen here, what we really are going to do is examine the rosters. So if you have a player that you have in your final regular season week, or you have a player you have in the playoffs, Kyle and maybe Chet and I will offer our takes as well of players that could have a breakout week, could bomb, could win you a championship. That's how we're doing this. Look, if a roster pieces together, by the end of it, we will ask Kyle to tell us who he thinks is going to win the championship and lift up the belt in 3 weeks. But that's what we're going to do. We're going to break down the Gozilla Media matchups player-wise. But before we get to it, we want to tell you about our friend Jared Lozier at Northeastern Insurance. 2022 just around the corner. Are the things that are most important in your life protected and insured? Your car, your business. Jared Lozier is going to shop around to find the best rates for you. That stuff is so important. You're looking to save some cash into 2022. Are you paying too much for your insurance right now? Call Jared today. 518-956-3753. 518-956-3753 to ask about insurance rates heading into 2022. Or email him, JAREDL@nemail.com. JAREDL edl@anymail.com, or show up to Hooters on Friday and look for the man who's bald with that wonderful beard and say, hey, insurance guy, I got some questions for you. And then buy him a drink and enjoy the Heineken with him and do that. Jared Lowe's here, Northeastern Insurance, proud sponsor of We Talk Fantasy. All right, I'm going to share the screen here. We have never done this in the history of We Talk Fantasy. We have graphics here, so I believe I'm going to pull this off correctly. If you're watching on our visual side, it's far easier to do. The graphic is now
up. I just want to make sure you closed out all your tabs from earlier in the day.
Kyle, can you see that, or do you need that to be zoomed in?
I'm good. I'm good. Oh, other
right.
way. Do the other way. Yeah, there we
you
go.
Like this better? Okay, so on our visual side, you can see the roster. We have the 1 versus 8 matchup right now.
Oh, there we go.
It is Trav and Rigney, our pals from the Trav and Rigney show. It is Travis, the 8 seed, who beat out Rigney by less than 5 points for the 8 seed, versus the regular season champion, Chet Davis, the top seed. All right, Kyle, looking at these rosters right now, do you see a player, a matchup, something interesting that jumps out to you in this 1-8 game that someone listening might take for their matchups coming up?
There are a lot of question marks going into this game. Burrow, is he healthy? Pollard, is Zeke going to play? Mitchell, is he healthy? Russell, what are you doing? Oh, Chet. I love Pollard against Washington. Love it. Big fan of that one. And then I'm going to continue to eat all 3 of our words for us. Joe Mixon, you proved us wrong, bud. Can you do it again? However, Chet going bold with Osborne, with Thielen out, I also love. I really am looking at this matchup right now. The defining factors are on Chet's side. If Russell Wilson plays normal and if Elijah Mitchell plays, I don't think Chet has a problem. If Elijah Mitchell doesn't play, I would want to see who he can put in there for the flex, and I'm going to trust that he's got depth because in every league he's got depth. But Chet, you might be in trouble if you're losing Mitchell. If I'm going to look at who I need to pick now, Chet, I'm sorry. I think you're getting upset this week.
Whoa, Chet, he's calling the 8-1 upset. How do you feel? What is the response to this? Are you shaking in your boots right now after the breakdown?
I mean, the team has completely fallen apart. And I think the biggest thing, I think Mitchell's a great point. I'm concerned over, he's proved me wrong for most of the year with having these injury designations and then be able to play through it. But I think the biggest one is the fact that this Minnesota game's on a Thursday, and I don't know what Alexander Mattison or Dalvin Cook. That's going to be a big determining factor. If Cook plays, I have to sub him in. If Cook's going to go, I got to put him over Madison. But there's just a lot of unknowns. It could easily blow up in my face. It could be a 2-touchdown day. I don't like the matchup against Pittsburgh. No, I'm nervous, man. The Russell Wilson injury, I said this to Kyle earlier, that really derailed the team. Mm-hmm. Not only because Russell had started the season so well, but the fact that my wide receiver 1 is DK Metcalf. I mean, that's a 2-for-1. The last 3 weeks have just been putrid with those two. Russell doesn't play well. DK doesn't play well. So, and then, the other guy that's on my bench, which again could completely change this matchup, is Deebo Samuel. Right. For him to go down with injury, he's questionable right now. I don't know if he's going to play. It helps my situation that the San Francisco team is in a must-win situation coming off that loss to the Seahawks. But again, how much faith do you have in a guy who just missed a week and has a strained groin, I believe is what he's dealing with? I have a lot of players that could easily go out there and play one series and be done. And that's scary for playoff time.
Go ahead, Kyle. Yeah.
The other thing, Chet, and guys, if you scroll up a little bit more, just to look at this, you're doing what I did against you, playing Javonte. That's Javonte Williams. Never mind. I thought that was Williams for Detroit, then playing Denver's defense. My bad. Never mind.
That would have been amazing if you pulled it off somehow. So for bracket style, by the way, so you can follow along, we're jumping into the 4-5 matchup now. So this is the top portion of the bracket. If you're trying to find out who you think is going to win, you want to interact with them on social media. This is the 4-seed Sean Martin representing M and M Across the Board podcast versus our guy Dan from Hooters representing on Friday. So if you see Dan, tell him you love his team. Dan's team's on the right, the 5-seed. Sean's team's on the left. Kyle, anything jumping out to you in this matchup in the 4-5 game?
Yeah, bud. Why are you playing Breeden? Why are you playing Booker?
Now, remember, Dan was involved in this controversial Darren Waller, Sony Michel trade which now a 20-point difference, and Sony Michel ends up on another team, but you're going right back to the running backs again. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm hoping these guys haven't set their lineups yet. But when you look at this, I think who's on the right, guys?
Dana's on the right. Sean's on the left.
I think he's got a pretty big advantage, and the only reason I say that is Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp. They are going to need the Rams are going to need to win this game, and Matt Stafford is going to have to expose a little bit of that secondary. If Arizona's rush can get home, I feel good about Arizona, and that might pose some problems. But I think Cooper Kupp and Matt Stafford are easily ones this week because of the offense that they're going to play with. Now, when you look at the other side, there ain't much I like on this side. I mean, I like Hunter Renfrow going against Kansas City. So obviously you got the 2-for-1 with Renfrow and Carr. But I hate Marquise Brown. Stephon Diggs should have a good day, but you see right next to that little Tampa Bay thing right there, that looks like some rain, boys and girls. That happens. Stephon Diggs is in trouble. The Bills are in trouble. So, like I said, I really hope they don't have their lineup set. But we're going with Daniel here by, I think, a pretty sizable margin.
Ooh, and one other thing to note on Dan's team here representing Hooters, 6 of his 9 starters are scheduled to kick off after 8:30. So you want to have a nice, easy Sunday afternoon watching football, get the chores done, hang out with the baby, put the baby to sleep, and then get ready for Sunday, Monday. I feel like that's less stressful. Chad, I'm going to toss it up to you. When you have all late kickoffs and Monday night kickoffs, more stressful or less stressful watching your opponent put up points for a whole day?
Ooh, I prefer having the late games. I feel like I panic right away if I have a lot of 1 o'clock guys because your projection immediately starts to plummet after a slow start and you start stressing. I will say, though, the thing that's killed me, and I can't believe this trend has continued, in Kyle and I's Dynasty League, I have had every single week include a Monday night player. Not just on my own, but my opponent or myself, someone has a Monday night guy. I hate going to bed on Sunday with a matchup still up in the air. It's just, you think about it when you go to bed. You think about it when you wake up. You think about it throughout the day. I love when it ends on Sunday. Let's just get it all taken care of, and I can just move on and sulk. The one thing, guys, before you move on, if you actually scroll down a little bit, you actually can show bench players.
Oh, thank you, Chet, for
There
that.
we go.
Yeah, we'll show a little. Look at that diving deep into the storylines.
It's a big loss for the guy on the left.
Dude, they don't have better options at running back. Oh,
I think the JaMychal Hasty pickup, and I saw that was a move that just went through on our waiver wire. He just added him off waivers. If Elijah Mitchell isn't out, JaMychal Hasty could. I mean, that's a better play than. Doesn't he have the Giants backup? He has Booker.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would much rather have Hasty going in than Devontae Booker.
Mm-hmm.
He is a Giant fan, and by the way, Sean's a Raider fan. So if you're noticing some favoritism in the lineup early here in the week, that might be why you see more Raider and Giant love on both of those teams. All right, we're jumping to the 3-6 game for perspective here. The team on the right is OTB over the bar, Matt Woods. He is the 6th seed who finished 2nd in points this season. And you've got Brian Katie from White Heat in the space between your ears on the left. He finished 4th in points. And I'll say this before we break down the matchup. My bold call, the winner of this game, in my opinion, will win the Gozilla Media League. Even though I'm rooting for myself, I hope I can win. We'll get to my matchup next. Chet's getting really a tough matchup in the 1-8 game. The winner of this is my pick to win it all. So I'll let Kyle go first. Looking at these teams, you see the numbers, you see the lineups. Brian Katie's on the left, Matt Woods is on the right. What do you make of this 3-6 game?
This is loaded. These are.
If you remember, Kyle, the guy on the right is the one that heading into the regular season finale was the 8th seed. And I go, he needs to win to bump up to the 7. And he did just that because this team is scary.
Yeah. Heavy investment here. There's a lot of good here. Obviously, Justin Jefferson is going to probably eat this week with that, but does Pitt double him all game, which they should. So Justin Jefferson is not going to hit 18. He's either going to have 40 or he's going to have 4. So take that as you leave it. I absolutely love Lamar going up against that Cleveland defense that has just been we just cannot figure out, which is really interesting. Brian has the Baltimore defense going against Lamar Jackson, so obviously they're not the same, but ooh.
How about, but if you go back up, how about how big is that Tampa Bay Buffalo game going to be? In this matchup alone, Gronk, Evans, Fournette, Godwin.
Oh, I totally missed Evans.
Holy cow. I mean, Tom Brady's going to have a day, but who's he going to have a day throwing to? I mean, that's going to be every time Brady drops back, this matchup's going to change. How crazy is that?
Yeah, I look at this as a couple different things. You got Ezekiel Elliott. I mean, we kind of know like what happens with Zeke. I don't know. I don't love playing Zeke there. Love Eckler going up against the Giants. Love Godwin. I don't like Mike Evans because I think they're going to I think Buffalo's going to take their chance of doubling Evans and just not getting beat over the top by Godwin. I think the defining player for Brian, which will win him the matchup, is going to be Higgins. Higgins has played well, but then I think on the flip side, you can look at it as does Burrow play with his injury? So if Burrow plays, Brian wins because of Higgins.
I can't wait for that game. That is going to be high scoring. That's coming down to the final few plays. Those guys are going to be stressing all day for sure. All right, final matchup, the 2-7 game. Bryce Zielinski representing the podcast Sports with a Z and a T, and also Made for Philly. And old Gozzy Bear on the left. The 2-7 game. Bryce is the 2. I am the 7. By the way, for those who don't know, Bryce has complained that he has multiple players. We'll get to his back. You know what? Let's start with that because he has complained more than anybody that it is a bye-week filled week 14. You can see some of his impact players that have a bye. Seeing those players that are on a bye and then scrolling up to the matchup, does he have a legit complaint how badly his lineup is hurt without those players?
Not at all. I mean, I think you can make an argument for the quarterback. But then again, you went heavy with the Eagles. What are you thinking? What's your problem there?
He is an Eagle fan.
Shocker. Guys, you're in trouble, bud. Your wide receiving core is not going to do well. Brandon might be okay, but
butter him up a little bit, Kyle.
Yeah, but I'm sorry. You're starting Mark Ingram, which
did I miss something? When did Ingram go on COVID?
Right before this taping. As I'm watching it right now happen. We can get the quick update here. Yeah. I liked that matchup a lot better when he wasn't on COVID because that matchup against the Jets, they've allowed the most fantasy points to running backs this season. I don't like that COVID next to his name. And I don't like David Montgomery not practicing.
As well. I didn't include them in the top 8 running back rooms that we're worried about. Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram is another one and the reason I didn't include it is I'm not in love with Mark Ingram on standalone value because it's a bad offense. But if Kamara comes back against the Jets, oh man, I mean that's what so many people have been waiting for. And if it doesn't happen, I mean now is it Tony Jones? Is he even healthy? Who's the number 3?
Yeah.
Guys,
man, that's brutal.
I think your play here, you need points, bud.
Is that how fantasy football works?
Yeah. I think your play, dude, honestly, might be shifting Knox to your flex, shifting St. Brown over Moore against Atlanta. I
like leaving Moore. Oh man.
This is where I wish Cordero Patterson was on my team.
Yeah.
Put him in one of those spots, and then that would be
you literally need Cordell Patterson on your team, and I think everything flips for you. But yeah, man, I mean, I think the matchup's going to hinge on Aaron Jones. Does Aaron Jones get a full workload? If he does, him going against Chicago is a lovely matchup. I mean, with him also having Cordero Patterson going up against Carolina. You might get lucky with Taysom Hill, too. I mean, he had the ugliest 20-point game we have ever seen in the history of fantasy football. But you never know. Who's on the waiver wire in case do they make a switch? I don't know. But you're going to need Patty Mahomes and Travis Kelce to get you 60 points.
Yeah, I've got an uphill battle. I think this is the most potential. I mean, Kyle's not wrong. This is the most likely to be a blowout of the first round matchups.
I love
even
you,
with
God.
even with Bryce's team. The only thing I could get lucky on with this is it flips all the way back to what Chet said earlier. There are a lot of 50-50 matchups that coin flip wise. Aaron Jones, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Henderson. There's a chance all three of those guys can go under double digits. Like because of touches and everything else. And if that's the case and the Raiders defense doesn't show up and St. Brown gets into the end zone, I might have a game. But if one of those guys gets in the end zone twice, any of those three running backs I've listed off, that could be game over by 4:15.
Right.
You want to know what's
I
also
will say, at least, the guy you're playing is upset about the buys. I think you guys are the only two teams that have players that are dealing with it. And the fact that you don't have Pittman is equally as big of a loss of him not having Jalen Hurts. And I think bigger because Hurts didn't play last week. So even if they weren't on a bye, is he even available? Or is it going to be Gardner Minshew again? So he loses Sanders. I don't think he plays over the three running backs he has in his lineup. Who's his other tight end?
Gesicki.
Who's the tight end he's playing?
Hawkinson. He's fine.
So he's not playing Gesicki over Hawkinson most likely. So you actually have the bigger bye week problem of having to play St. Brown over Michael Pittman, who I think is one of the more consistent fantasy guys this year.
You want to know another interesting competition you got going against each other? TJ Hawkinson versus St. Brown. Who wins that matchup could also decide this. Does St. Brown get all the targets but does Hawkinson get the red zone targets, or does St. Brown, after catching that touchdown pass to win the game, does he have some more? Does Goff have some more confidence in him? That might be an interesting one too to pay attention. Keep an eye on.
Yeah, and the thing about St. Brown, for perspective here, for those who don't know, he has never been on my roster until this week. I picked him up on waivers. I knew I needed somebody for Pittman. I thought after the game-winning touchdowns, Goff is going to feel more comfortable throwing him the football. I'm hoping for a boomer bust out of St. Brown one more time. So
love it.
All right, Kyle, you've seen all the matchups now. I'm going to pick myself, even though I don't feel great about my matchup. I'm sure Chet has confidence as his team. My pick was the Woods-Brian Katie matchup as my winner. I'll go with Woods to win it all just because he scored more points this season, and that matchup works in his favor. So my pick to win it all, touchdown my pants, over the bar podcast, Matt Woods, if I'm not picking myself or Brian Katie. I'm picking me. So, Kyle, let's hear your pick. Unless, Chet, you want to offer up a pick. We save Kyle's for the end. How do you want to do this?
Can I go back to touch my pants? Can I see that
sure.
matchup one more time?
Yeah, I'll get you a request. I feel like I'm in my old format now. I'm taking requests here. Do you would you like a lifeline? Would you like me to use it in a sentence like the old spelling bee? Okay, here's that matchup again with touchdown my pants with Matt Woods. Right side of your screen if you're watching.
You open the benches?
Yes. If you're watching our visual side, make sure to check it out. If you're listening on audio, you can see all these matchups right there. Make sure to subscribe.
Right. Yep, I think the team on the left is going to win the whole thing.
Brian's got Waddle too.
Brian Katie is the pick to lift up the championship belt from Chet Davis. All right?
Yeah, I think that's going to be it.
Just to be fair, can you go back to Chet's matchup just so I can see benches, just in case?
Yeah,
just in case. But
this is, again, the 1-8 matchup for those who want to hear it. Chet is supposed to be the favorite winning the regular season, but Travis is going to give him a run for his money, according to us. He's on the left, Chet's on the right.
Can you show the benches real quick?
Yeah.
Did you just swap in Dalvin Cook? Chet?
Oh, yeah. I had to bolster my point a little bit.
Mid-show!
So, yeah, the big thing is going to be Debo sitting there. And then I'm leaning away from James Robinson.
Yeah. I mean, so here's the thing, Chet. I think if you can survive this week, and if Russell can play decent and get you some points, I like you winning it.
Got to get healthy. I got to get healthy.
Yep, you got to get healthy. But I'm with Chet. Brian's team with Waddle, I think that steals it. You have 4 legit wide receivers that you play the matchup with. Waddle's been, I think he's number 2 in receptions, and he's top 10 in yards. I mean, he's been great this year. I think Brian's got it. I think you got to go Brian.
We will find out. I have a feeling this might be the most active social media post when it comes to We Talk Fantasy, when all the guys from the Gozilla Media League get tagged and they say how much they disagree with our selections. We will find out. Cannot wait for this fantasy week to get underway. Kyle Ray, Chet Davis, we will talk to you guys again next week. Enjoy your final week of the regular season for the first week of the playoffs.